the chances are slim that the average American will benefit much financially from any of that money. Instead, Atlantic's article argued that removing taxi drivers removes crucial human interaction in the name of convenience, and that it is important to preserve spaces like taxis that allow people to interact with people of different backgrounds. Yeah, but let's talk about how some of these taxi drivers are criminals, and we're not doing proper background checks to make sure that criminals aren't on our roads. Like, there's just so much that has happened that we are not taking care of in our societies. Okay, you got driverless cars, you got taxis with sometimes very unscrupulous people. I'll just say that. And both need to be handled. Like I said, I don't want to drive an autonomous car. You can keep it moving for me. When I go to a restaurant and they use robots, I don't go back. Or try to find out, do you have robot waiters? Great, thank you. I'm never going. Because I want human interaction when I go out, because I can cook for myself. I don't have to spend my money with you. And when businesses start losing money, then they'll be, oh, okay, maybe we should do things differently. Yeah, maybe you should. Maybe you should. Because there's certain places that robots should not be. And it's okay if they are not there. Some other topics that we've got the NYT article alleging Israeli sexual violence sparks criticism from conservatives and Jewish writers. Wow. Are we shocked though? Are we shocked? So from the center, accused of blood libel, MIT defends column, New York Times, alleging Israel rape of Palestinian inmates. The right pressed off extraordinary claims about Israeli rape require extraordinary evidence. The Times doesn't have it. And on the left, the silence that meets the rape of Palestinians. None of it's good. None of it's good. California mayor charged for acting as Chinese agent. We're going to go over that a little bit later. Trump says Americans' financial situations, not even a little bit relevant in Iran negotiations. Okay. Consumer prices rise to highest point since 2023. Yeah, because we have more people, less stuff, so they can charge more. That's where we're at. Okay, Mandani, New York City budget plan and crisis solved, or kicking the can down the road. Because, yeah, he can't get the money that he needs to consolidate within just the city of New York, asking the state, like, hey, we need some more money down here. But you're paying people with these nonsensical positions, 3-figure salaries, to do what again? Fix your budget. Eliminate some of these positions that don't need to be there so that you can actually have a decent police force. Like, do your job. It's really sad. And then Trump proposes a pause on federal gas tax. I'm okay with that. If they can do that, that would be pretty awesome. And with that, let's take a quick break. See what I can pull up here. Yeah, let's take a quick break. And after we get back, we will get into some more of this news.
Water sustains life. But what if it could do more than hydrate? What if it could deliver light directly into the body? Introducing the LifeWave X2O water technology system, the first and only water technology system that infuses water with light. Using patented light infusion technology, the result is hydration optimized at the cellular level, supporting metabolism and nutrient absorption. And through hydrogen infusion, delivering antioxidant properties that support the body's natural defenses. When hydration works at the cellular level, you feel it where it matters. You drink it, you feel it. A new era in cellular hydration, powered by light. LifeWave X2O.
for those myself because that looks pretty cool. And if you have any questions about that LifeWave product, you can reach out to Noni, CMSLLC@gmail.com, and you can get your questions answered or get more information. So with that, let's get into some of these hearings that happened, I guess, a day or two ago with Fauci. So the first one we're going to look at is Rand Paul, and then the next one is going to be the whistleblower that he's actually questioning. I'm playing them in this order so we can get some good context.
That there is still resistance from the CIA to comply with the law we passed to declassify all the COVID information?
Yes.
One of the things that I think is new today that I'm hearing from your testimony is that from an early period of time, you believe, and the information you're aware of, is that CIA scientists from an early time after the pandemic began, 2020, 2021, were concluding that the lab leak was the most likely hypothesis?
Yes, Senator. I'd like to offer some qualifications on that as well. A lot of the issues occurred at the interagency space, at the National Intelligence Council, the individuals responsible for conducting or writing WMD analysis. So, and many of those individuals are on JDA from the CIA. But yes, very early, as early as 2020, there were agencies within the IC circulating papers that that said, hey, there's, for example, DOE circulated a paper in May of 2020 that said that all the conditions were present for a lab leak. And I could go through the timeline, but yes, my short answer is yes, periodically throughout 2020 all the way to 2024. Yes.
I think the arguments, pro and con for what is the evidence on whether this came from a lab or it came from nature are still important. So for years, we've been asking the CIA to produce the scientists, either in a classified setting or a public setting, to discuss the arguments. I don't see any reason why the arguments should be classified. One of the arguments that's made publicly is that the source looks like it came from a single source of RNA, not like 5 different types of viruses or 20 different types like you had with SARS 2003, but it came from one source. And virtually everybody argues that sort of indicates a lab and not a nature. And so those arguments are important scientific arguments to have, but we've been prevented from having them. We've been preventing from getting all of the declassified information. But what I think is of importance that's new today is that your testimony is that the CIA scientists were concluding that it was lab, but then with this, there was a 90-day study in 2021, and this study was done by NIC, led by NIC. Tell us what NIC is again.
It's the National Intelligence Council, and individuals responsible for writing various WMD and bio-related issues.
So when they had this study, they had CIA scientists telling them, look, the evidence, the scientific evidence looks like it came from the lab. But then they brought in Anthony Fauci. And is it your opinion that Anthony Fauci was able to overrule the scientist or get NIC to conclude somehow that there wasn't a conclusion to be had here, we're going to be neutral, contradicting what the scientists were telling them?
So there's 2 questions there, and I want to break them up into 2. One is, where were the injection points, Dr. Anthony Fauci? Where did Dr. Anthony Fauci and when did he inject himself into the IC? And the other half of that question, if I'm, and I don't want to extrapolate too much here, is, okay, what happened with why was there a change in analysis? So I'll start with if it's okay, Dr. Paul.
Sure.
Senator, I'll start with Dr. Anthony Fauci. There were 2 instances. On 3 February 2020 and 4 June 2021, Anthony Fauci had contact with the interagency. And how to sort of broadly generalize this is that contact was happily pursued within the IC. They wanted that contact. And he provided a curated list of subject matter experts, which coincidentally wrote the proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2. So it's not like he came in and said, you have to do X, Y, and Z. He provided recommendations. It's when you look at what has already been publicly released about Dr. Fauci, and then what you're seeing under the curtain at the 𝗖𝗍, where you realize, okay, there is a narrative that was being generated by his contact, not just with experts here in the United States, but experts in Australia and the UK. And that's the public-facing piece. And, you know, he had tried to sort of keep his hands clear of, I didn't have anything to do with the proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2. But in the meantime, he's pushing those authors and individuals that have been in his orbit into the 𝗖𝗍 as experts. And I'll jump to June 2021. We as the 𝗖𝗍 at the NIC happily pursued those recommendations. And in one email, which I'll describe to you, the person in charge of leading the 90-day study, you know, he introduced himself to the community that on what they were supposed to be doing, and then the community said, listen, we've got these people we should be talking to, and another very senior NIC officer sent a direct email to him saying, hey, considering that Dr. Fauci is a public health expert, are you sure we should be relying on this? Shouldn't we have a separate set? And in this instance, the individual responded, no, in this case, Dr. Anthony Fauci is a subject matter expert. However, that's directly contradicting his public testimony of being a subject matter expert.
Part of the job in intelligence when you interview someone is assessing their truthfulness, their potential biases or conflicts of interest. Did anyone ever bring up that Anthony Fauci approved the research that went on in Wuhan and that it might not be in his interest for the conclusion to be that it came from a lab that he had funded, that there might be a conflict? Did anybody ever bring up that he might not be an objective witness?
That was one example of an email. No one laid it out quite that clearly. You're piecing it together. We were piecing it together from multiple emails, from multiple agencies, multiple documents. It was more subtle than that. Nobody said, this is happening. And unfortunately, I think they probably should have. It was all out there.
But your conclusion is that changing from the scientific consensus of it being from a lab to a neutral position by the CIA was significantly influenced by Anthony Fauci?
It was